Okay, so for the first part of the call, I'm just going to be interviewing Richard. I'm gonna get all the secrets from him, how he's done what he's done, and then the last 15 or 20 minutes, we will go into Q&A. So as I'm talking with Richard, if you have a question, just write it down, and we'll save ample time at the end, just so you guys can ask him. So for the meantime, you guys can just turn off your camera, and then when we come into the Q&A, we'll come back in and yeah. Cool. Not that I don't like seeing your guys' face. It's just I'm going to be using this recording in the future, so make the recording a little cleaner. All right, got one more guy coming in, Marshall. All right. Well, I think one of our biggest calls yet, Richard. You're kind of a big deal, which you already knew that.
No, and yeah, if I can just kind of preface this whole thing by saying, like, I am the most boring. Like, I wear basketball shorts and a t-shirt, all day, every day, sweatpants. Like, I'm the most normal person on the planet. So I feel honored to even be here. I'm nobody special, so don't treat me as, any different than yourselves.
You are special, Richard, just because you're you. And every single person is here is special. And what I would hope for this call is that people would hear your story and they realize that what you've done, it doesn't take a special person, in the sense that, like, anybody can do it. That's right. What I'm trying to say.
Right.
The reason I first reached out to you, for those of you who don't know, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago now, on ClickFunnels Instagram, they featured Richard holding up a 2 Comma Club award, and they said, "Congrats to Richard Bigi, our newest 2 Comma Club award winner." And what a 2 Comma Club award is, simply says that you've done over $1 million in sales in a funnel. And so I just clicked into his profile and saw he wasn't like an influencer or that he would maybe read my message. And I said, "Hey, Richard, congratulations. Your story gives me inspiration that I can do the same." And that just started a conversation over these last year and a half or so. And Richard's given me a lot of tips and tricks for my own business, and he's just been an all-around great guy. And I've invited him kind of as a contributor to the Mastermind. So I wanted to go deep today, just talking with Richard kind of about his backstory and how he got to where he is today. And, if he's achieving the results he is today, how can we take what he's done and apply it to our own business and maybe achieve the same, better, or even a fraction thereof. So Richard, kind of tell us about your background and how you got into marketing and what led you down this path. Because
so well, first things would be like, how many of you guys graduated college? You don't have to answer that, but a lot of people think you got to be smart to make it, and I'm not saying any of you are not smart, but that's kind of what we're conditioned to believe, right? Like, we grow up from the time we're little that you have to go to college, you have to get a degree to get a job, you have to do all these silly things. And it's like, man, I failed out of college, like within a matter of months. And then I tried again, thought I wanted to be a chiropractor, kind of went that route. By the grace of God, my father-in-law, who was a chiropractor, told me don't do it. So I was like, okay. So he's like, come work for me for a little bit, learn some marketing stuff. He's like, if you still want to be a chiropractor, then go. Truth be told, I think he just didn't want me, his daughter and I were about to get married. I don't think he wanted her, moving away to Atlanta, Georgia, and we're in Pittsburgh, PA. So that's probably his real motive behind it. But either way, it worked out really well. So I kind of started learning marketing. I started paying a lot of attention to Facebook marketing in particular, because we would do seminars, and most of the time they were weight loss seminars, sometimes thyroid, diabetes, things like that. But he would run newspaper ads and postcard ads, magazine inserts, all kinds of stuff, ancient stuff, right? Like dinosaur stuff that worked for a long time, but all of a sudden just kind of weren't working anymore. So we had hired a marketing company that would run Facebook ads. They were all right. They were nothing great. And I just kind of thought like, after studying it for a month or so, like I think I can outperform this. So he gave me a little bit of a budget. I put $500 behind it and I outperformed the other guys by a decent bit and got a handful of people to come to our seminar. But that's really what kicked it off, until it was very end of 2017. And then, we had just had a conversation about like, hey, he's like, I'm not going to be doing this for forever. So, I want to pass this off to you guys. It was me and my two brother-in-laws. Business wasn't great. So he just kind of kept the reins for a while. A couple of years later, early 2019, we officially said, let's partner up. We partnered up, three-way split. We started running a lot of traffic to our seminars. Sorry, guys, let me turn my notifications off. So we started running seminars, did pretty dang well at it. And then Facebook changed. And in addition to that, like you can only do so many physical things before you hit a ceiling, right? So we were probably spending between $3,500 and $4,000 on one seminar, but we would travel within a 4-hour driving distance. So we beat the crap out of every area around our place, right? We would visit different states like West Virginia, Maryland, Ohio. Like we went everywhere and would do a seminar. And eventually it's like the first time we would go to that town, it would work well. We'd get anywhere from 50 to 150 people to show up. But the second time we'd go back, it would cut in half. And like I said, eventually we ran out of places to go. So our business really started to struggle. And in fact, October of 2019, right before, the catastrophe of the world, we had our last seminar. We spent $4,000 on it, a little bit more than I believe. And we had 4 people show up. Not cool, wasn't fun. That led to a probably 4 or 5 hour text conversation between the 3 of us, 3 partners, because we had 3 other employees, right? So there's a total of 6 of us. And we had, this is knowledge to me. I remember having a couple grand in the bank, but my father-in-law tells me we were actually negative. So had no clue what we were going to do. My father-in-law comes walking into the office the next morning, and keep in mind, like for the past like month or so when things weren't going well, we kind of all just didn't talk, right? Like we'd all go into the office, we'd do our own thing, not really talk to each other. Just, I was trying to get my business going again. My brother-in-law was trying to do his thing. My father-in-law, I don't know what he was doing, probably just thinking about calling it quits. But he comes in and he's like, hey, I watched this video of this guy. His name's Uriel Kame. If any of you guys are in the health coaching business, he's a good dude. But he tells us, he's like, I'm watching this video, and we're like, yeah, we know who Yuri is. Like we told him years ago, like he could probably help us. It was just, I think the main point is like Ryan, my brother-in-law, and I had been telling Dr. Cole for years, like, this is what we need to do. And this is how we need to do it. And he's just like, I'm telling you guys, it's never going to work. But funny thing is like his personality is when he comes up with the idea, it's a winner, so we had to figure out a way to get him to come up with the idea. And, it just kind of organically happened. So that's what happened. And that allowed us to kind of, steer the ship. So we then got a loan, $40,000, and we put every cent of it into Facebook marketing. Now we had been building this periodically over.
Can I pause you for a minute?
Go ahead.
All right. So the genesis, you guys are doing an offline business model. You're running physical in-person seminars with direct response ads. Come to the seminar, learn this thing, right?
Yep. Yeah. Learn this thing. We'll sell you a $97 call, or we'll sell you a $97 appointment at the end. And I'll kind of break down our structure now too. It's basically the same thing. It's just virtual, but they would come to our office. We'd do, a couple testing things with them, and then sell them on a program.
So you would have the seminar, which is free. So the direct response ad was to free event. And then at the event, the call to action was like a low ticket, just get them in the door, qualify them as a customer offer, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
And that offer, what was really the purpose of that offer? Because we're not trying to really make money off a $97 thing when you're spending thousands of dollars to get butts and seats.
Right. Yeah. So the idea behind it was, like you said, to qualify them for sure, but we had to get them to believe something that most of them were not aware of. You guys now may have heard people talking about like the health of our cells, right? Because our cells are our building blocks, they're the foundation of every living thing, period. And if your cells are sick, you're going to be sick. So we had to get them to believe that. And back then, people really didn't know much about that. So if we could get them to understand, like, your cells are what we need to focus on. If we can fix your cells, we can fix you, and you will feel better. Finally, it's not about medication. It's not about, weight loss, exercise. It's not about one thing. It's about, it's a combination of things all focused on fixing the cells of your body. So that $97, the presentation, to get them to buy that was to make them understand. And if they bought that $97, then they realized, okay, now I can do these tests to see how sick my cells actually are. And if we could then get them to believe your cells are sick enough that you need to do something and you need to do it now. And that's what the appointment was for. At the end of the appointment, if they actually were sick and if they actually were coachable, we would sell them on our program.
Which was?
Yeah, well, then it was it was a catastrophe, but it was whatever we thought we could do to help them. Like it was not cookie cutter at all. It was, we feel like this person needs this. Let's give them a blood test. Let's give this person a stool test. Let's give this person both. This person's going to be $3,000. This guy's going to be $997. There was no structure whatsoever. And the more we struggled, the lower our prices got, because all we wanted to do was get people in the door. And that is, really shooting yourself in the foot. When you do that, you devalue yourself, your program, and you devalue, the customer as well. You do them a disservice. So that's what we were doing. And then finally, transfer into this virtual arena, which, like I said, we've been building for a while, but we tried it. I want to say it was 2018, summer of 2018. We tried it. We learned from Frank Kern. We did a lot of his marketing style, but we never really fully jumped into it. We kept seminars because we were too afraid, right? So we put very minimal budget behind the webinar, and that's why it never really took off. It's why it never really worked.
When you say Frank Kern style, can you kind of let people know in a nutshell what that is?
Yeah. So Frank Kern's style is extremely simple, but in my opinion, the most effective that you'll learn from any marketer, period. So Frank Kern is basically like, I want to be a good person and I want to help you. And I'm not going to be a jerk and ask you for your money all the time. And I'm not just going to be like, hey, I have this really cool product, pay me. He's not like that. Frank Kern's style is like, I'm going to give you helpful tips, as many tips as it takes for you to finally come to the realization that I'm the real deal and I have what you need. And he teaches it all through video, right? Like, a lot of people think you can do image ads and get away with it. And that may be the case sometimes, but for the most part, if you transition into doing video ads, the game changes for you. I mean, that's how we grew a following. That's how we, got Facebook to actually partner with us and then boost our videos and stuff. But if you do those things, people really flock to you. So that's his style, is just be helpful, be kind, and have what they need.
I've given Frank Kern money before, and I hope to give him more money in the future. So, and it's a very attractive method because he gives and gives, and there's an offer there, but you don't feel like there's an expectation.
Right. Absolutely. And with Frank, it's like, he does such a good job. Like you said, you've given him money before. I think I bought every Frank Kern product there is, and I haven't even gone through probably 95% of it,
Me too. I have a tab, courses. When I impulsively buy a course, I'm like, oh, put it in that tab again. I'll get to it eventually.
Yeah.
They funneled me.
Yeah. I mean, he's irresistible.
So let's get into a little bit more of the tactics. So you had an offline model where we had this seminar, and then we had the low ticket offer. We're qualifying a customer. Once we qualify the customer, at that point, you got them into a one-on-one sales opportunity or a conversation, correct?
Yep.
And based off that test results, you can present that to the prospect and say, hey, here's the data, right?
Right.
how would you make that transition from here's your problem to here's our solution? Was it kind of like a permission-based sell, like, okay, here's the problem, and then inevitably people are like, okay, well, how do you help me? Or is it here's the problem and here's our, pick your package?
Yeah. So, excuse me, when we were doing it offline, Dr. Cole did all the closings, right? Like he would go in with the patient, and then they were patients, not patients anymore, but for legal reasons. He would go in with the patient, and he, for whatever reason, we deal with mostly women, and this is no offense to any women on the call, but women cry more than men do, right? And he had this thing that he would get them to cry. Yeah, I mean, he was so good at it, and if he could get them to cry, it was almost a guarantee we would get the sale, right? And he pulled their emotions out, and he got them to understand that this is not normal, right? Just because you see the majority of the world has a health problem, that doesn't make it normal. And if he could get them to understand that and see that there is hope, that you can be normal and feel great, that brought the tears out. And if they understood that, it was a no-brainer. Just as long as we could get them, the funds. Because I mean, our programs, like I said, sometimes they were $3,000, sometimes they were $1,000, but like not everybody has that kind of cash, right? So we have financing and stuff. So if we can get that belief out of them and get them the money, it was a no-brainer.
Okay, so you got them to understand the issue, and then by that time, were they like, show me your offer? Like, how can you help me?
Yeah. So then, he'd move into the offer. He would explain to them like, okay, look, this is going to be a 3-month program or a 6-month program. Like I said, everything was just all over the place back then. It's going to involve supplements. You're going to have, and back then he would give every single patient his cell phone number. He said, you can text me any day, anytime, doesn't matter. If you have a question, you make sure you text me. They would get an online coaching course, which was terrible. What else would they get? Sometimes additional testing like blood work, stool, saliva kits. They had a support group that they could join that was kind of a part of the online portal, which was not owned by us either. It was actually owned by a company that we kind of were in direct competition with, were at least. So that was, it was kind of sticky there. But they would just get these things. And again, our offer was terrible, man. Like how we made any sales is beyond me, because like what we had to offer is what I just told you right there. And that's what
you got them to cry. I mean, it doesn't.
That's what it was, man.
Yeah. Okay. So you were struggling. You hit a wall in about, what did you say, 2019?
Yeah, October
2019.
It had really been like 6 months, 4 to 6 months of really struggling with our seminar game.
What were you feeling at that time? Because I think as entrepreneurs, we've all been working our butt off, and nothing is working, right? Everything we reach the end of our knowledge and current skill set, and nothing's working. Like, what were you feeling at that time? You had kids, obviously, you're married, probably a house payment. Like, what was going through your mind?
Yeah, we just had our 3rd kid, in July of 2019. So 3 kids, my wife, a mortgage. I mean, stressed isn't, it's not the right word. Anxiety for sure. Panic, like I had legitimate panic attacks. I had, to be honest, this is probably the first time I've ever even told this story, but I would take every credit card we have and I would process a payment through Stripe or Square to myself, just so I could get some cash in my bank account. Mm-hmm. I would do whatever I could to buy groceries. I know my brother-in-law actually went to the food bank. My father-in-law was lucky enough that he's a prepper, right? So he had gold and silver stashed. So he was just burning through his gold and silver. He was kind enough to even put some of that into the business to keep us afloat for a little while. But man, to say, stress and anxiety, it just, I've given a presentation similar to this for, like I said, one of my coaches, Uriel, came, and man, it's hard to get through it. It's hard to tell the story. It's not something I like reliving. It gave a lot of marital stress as well.
Well, we can all commiserate with you. We've all been in over our heads. if you've been an entrepreneur for any length of time, there's been a point where you're over your head.
Yeah.
And so what shifted? So October 2019, you hear about Uriel Kane. Talk about that transition, and let's start to get to the happy part of the story.
Yeah. So like I was saying earlier, that period of time, we were all just kind of doing our own thing. I was working on my business, but at the same time, like, I think I should just quit. I thought about everything, you know, like maybe going to get another job, possibly going back to
not
school.
Not getting a job. No.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. I actually
That's worse than bankruptcy.
I hear you, dude. I actually applied to a couple places. And I even had one interview, and I just didn't show up because I knew that wasn't my life. You know, I can't work for somebody. So we were all doing our own thing, very solemn in the office. And then, like I said, Dr. Cole comes walking in. He's like, hey, I have this idea. I heard this guy. And we're like, all right, cool. If he's finally like on board, you know, he agreed. Like the whole time he was like, no, I don't want to get a loan. I don't want to get a loan. I don't know if he was just nervous or afraid or what, but he's finally like, okay, let's get a loan. And like I said, we had it built. We had everything built and ready to go. But there were just a couple missing pieces. And so we turned this thing on in November, very early November. And I just remember Thanksgiving being at my other brother-in-law's house, and we were just talking business. And I remember the feeling. I mean, we were still broke, right? Like we didn't take a penny and we were still struggling. But I remember the feeling. We had sold like 27 consults in one day. And I'm like, this is crazy, you know, because like we would do in the good days, we would do a seminar and we would be super pumped if we'd sell 30 a week, you know, and to sell like 27 consults in a day. And mind you, we probably spent, I don't know, $2,000 to get them. So we were positive on the front end. And then, you know, fast forward a little bit.
So you ran ads to what?
A webinar. Yeah. So we had a bunch of videos, and, you know, over the course of 2019, we had Dr. Cole shoot probably 100 videos, all short, all between 2 and 10 minutes long, get the occasional 15-minute video, but, and we just would post them on our page. And while things looked good, you know, like you saw me win the award, things looked good. We had 100 and some thousand followers on Facebook. Facebook actually paid us, you know, a little bit of money here and there. Things looked good on the outside, but they really weren't, right? So we'd post all these new videos and we'd get, you know, 100 to 200 likes on it, you know, 50 comments on it each and every day. But what we did was we friend zoned ourselves. We never actually asked for anything. And then when we finally did, like we posted a video like, hey, we have this energy product. And they were like, oh, you're just like everybody else. You're in it for the money, blah, blah, blah. I won't get too sidetracked here. But anyways, we had all these videos and we saw which ones were best, right? So we then took those and put them into ads. We ran it's like a 10 by 10 by 10 campaign. And if you want me to, I can go into that. If not, we can do that another time. It's fine. So we'd run 10 videos, get them to opt in for a webinar. They would then watch. It's about an hour-long webinar. But this time it was different than our presentation for seminars, right? It was very, very, a lot like Russell Brunson's style, right? Mixed with Frank Kern. We would express to them what they're doing isn't working. Yeah, what they're doing isn't working. Here's why you feel the way you feel. Here's what you need to do about it. And we would do the stack. Our stack was ridiculous.
We would call that an opportunity switch in the Russell Brunson world. So like,
yeah,
you're trying to achieve a goal this way. It's probably not working. We're going to get you to that same goal you want. Feel better, more energy, lose weight, grow a delicious beard. But there's a better way to do it, right? It's the Dr. Cole way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you gave them the opportunity switch in the webinar. And then the call to action in the webinar was similar.
Exact thing. Yeah, same exact thing. So we would, we shipped them, we would ship them a urine test, and they had a questionnaire that they would fill out, right? And they would get an hour consultation. And I have to tell this part. We were sending this urine test in a Ziploc baggie, right? With a little vial, a pipette, just pull it out in a plastic cup, in a baggie, and then bubble wrapped and put into a mailer. It was so poorly presented I don't understand how we signed up anybody for the longest time. We now have boxes that look incredible. So yeah.
Show us the box. You show me I know you have one on your desk.
Yeah, let me grab it.
Richard showed me the box before, so that's why I know it's sitting there in his office.
Yeah. So comes shipped in this box, right? It has all the branding on it, Key Cellular Nutrition, super clean, right? And when you open it up, we have a little booklet that's got, testimonials in it. It's got Dr. Cole's bio, lots of cool stuff. And then we have their questionnaire. This is the questionnaire they fill out, right? They don't have to send it back. They just keep the score handy. And then here's the actual test kit, right? Again, super clean, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You just pull it out. You have your instruction card. And then in here, this is where the cup goes. Here's for the little vial. And then the pipette sits up here. They put the urine in the vial and then give it a 30 seconds or so. You shake it a little bit. And then you match it up with the colorimetric chart right here. So like it goes from 1 to 7. If they're a 1, they're probably pretty decently healthy. Their cells are probably not that inflamed. If they're a 7, they're in desperate need of healing their body. So that's how that test works. But yeah, like I said, we were shipping this kit in a plastic bag. And my goodness, I don't know how somebody didn't open that bag and think like, this guy's a joke. Like I would never give this guy my money.
Now, I'm not accusing you of this. How did you overcome the false belief that these guys are selling snake oil, right? And that this is a pool test kit that they just shipped me?
So a couple things, like we know and we've seen, like first of all, Dr. Cole's been in practice for like 37 years now. Mm-hmm. But even since like I partnered with them, like when we have people do our program, like it changes their life. Like for real changes their life. It's not some weight loss program, right? Like where somebody comes in and they're like, yay, I lost 15 pounds or 50 pounds, whatever. But I still kind of don't feel good. It's not like that. It's like they come in, we tell them, don't even exercise. If you're sick, your body needs energy to heal, right? So if you're spending your energy working out, how are you going to get the energy to heal your body? You can't, right? So like we just, I don't know, man, like we figured out the health part of it. And with the help with some other people, but like our lab and stuff, like he's a brilliant scientist. He's created some of the most incredible supplements. And then another doctor who is a friend of Dr. Cole's, he helped design, the actual program itself. So we know the program works. So we never had that mentality. We just had the mentality that they thought we were because our stuff looked so bad.
So you shipped in the tests. They would do like their home point of care testing. They say, okay, I have an issue, right? They have the consultation. And then let's talk about your offer. So let's talk about your offer now. It wasn't very strategic in the past. You were trying to meet people where they're at, but correct me if I'm wrong, you guys have a standardized offer now that you present to them. Can you tell us about that? And so we can get a little insight and maybe model it for our own coaching and consulting programs?
Yeah, for sure. Real quick, let me just say, I hear my youngest stomping up the steps. So if we're interrupted for a second, forgive me.
Oh, you're fine.
But yeah, so now Dr. Cole is not doing the closings. And he's, like I said, if you got him to cry, he was great. But he will be the first to admit to you, he does not like talking about money. He's a doctor, right? He hates the money part. So when we started the online, the virtual program here, one of the first things we did was hired a handful of commission-based salespeople. So the person buys a call, they get on the call with the salesperson, and that's all they do, right? So they're totally cool with talking about money. They get on, we talk to the client, like, what are your issues? Where are you at? We get them to tell us, all their ailments. And same as before, if we truly do feel like, we're not going to sell everybody. That's not the business we're in. If we don't feel that we can help you, if we feel that you're not sick enough, we do not want you as a client. We don't want to be rude, and people do get offended by that. But, we have a 99% success rate, and there's a reason for that. It's because we don't take people we can't help. So if we feel that we can help them, we then go through our offer, right? And our offer, what we did instead of, which I know you guys know this, but instead of being like, yeah, so, we have this help program, it's $7,300. You want to do it? Instead of doing that, we're like, yeah, so, it's not just 3 months. It's like, it's not month one, we're going to do this. Month two, we're going to do that. It's like, here's month one. Here's everything that happens in month one. You know what I mean? Like you get a personal health coach, you get a concierge that's going to guide you to whoever you need to talk to get your problem solved. You're going to do this phase of supplements. You have in week one, you're going to get on a welcome call with Dr. Cole, where he'll kind of answer any questions you have about the program itself, what's to come. We'll have this special guest for you. You'll have these calls available to you. And then we'll move into month two. You know what I mean? And we'll just break out everything that's in month two. So like there's hundreds of things that they see that they're getting. So when we get to the price, they're not like, honestly, when they get to the price, they're like, oh, yeah, how do I sign up? It's not a question of can I afford it? It's how do I afford it? Because there's so much value that we add to it. And that's, I think that was our missing link before. And I think that's the key to just about any program, any offer, period, is just that there has to be a tremendous amount of value. And I know Russell Brunson says like the value should be like 10 times your price, right? But our value, it's not quite that, but we're also selling a high ticket program, right? So it doesn't have to be that high. We could have, but a lot of the things that we list out on our stack is included. There's no price on it. It's just you buy this program, you get it. But yeah, I mean, there has to be so much value, right? And I think
so. What you're saying, as opposed to just saying, okay, so once they realize that they want to work, they want your guys' help. They've taken at this point, they've sat through the webinar. They've understood the opportunity switch. They've understood, okay, Dr. Cole's the real deal. They've seen testimonials. They've seen other people like them who's been helped. Okay.
Right.
And then they've had some false beliefs broken down, like, oh, this doesn't apply to me. This won't work for me. I won't have time. Right. So those have been broken. Now they say, okay, I'm interested. They pay $97. They get this testing kit. They get it in the mail. They pee on it. And they're like, oh, crap. Whatever this color says I'm sick. And then with that, they book the call with the salesperson, right?
Yeah. As soon as they purchase, they book the call immediately after purchase.
It's kind of all happening at the same time. They're taking the test. They're talking to the sales guy, right? So by the time they get on the phone with this person, this is not a cold lead, right? So they're ready to go. So the people, the commission-based salespeople you have, they're more like signing up and onboarding people, right? Answering a few questions. Right. But then when they say, hey, okay, here's our offer, it's not just like one line item, health coaching program and a price. And they're like, well, what is this?
Right.
Where you guys, the service provider, all the value, but you're being very deliberate to list everything out, itemize it, right?
Right. Even if we think it's stupid, we got to list it.
And if I could share my own little story, as for a long time, for my own agency services, I was kind of charging what sounded good, kind of like in the beginning, like, okay, well, what do I think is a good value for this? Okay, I'll do that for $500, right? There's no logic behind it. It's kind of you could almost call it emotion-based pricing. And I was struggling to sell my own services. And I said, Richard, I need some coaching. I need some help. And the biggest takeaway I took from that call was, if you're going to do anything, if you're going to give anybody an offer, itemize the crap out of it. And what I did is the next funnel proposal I did. Now it was literally a 2-page funnel, and where previously in a proposal I would say like sales page and then order confirmation page, and I would give a price. What I did was I made that proposal as lengthy as I could, not adding just filler, but saying, okay, you're going to have an expertly written, copywritten headline. You're going to get a video sales letter script. You're going to get bullet points that describe the features and the benefits of your event. And I itemized everything out. Everything that was in my head, I knew I was going to deliver. I put that on paper, and then I charged about 3 times more than I would have normally in the old emotion-based selling. And there was no objection. My client swiped the card right away. So just that own little switch in my business, itemizing everything out. If you're trying to charge high ticket, just lay it all out there. And by the time you get to the price, what you actually need to sell sell your package or service at, it's not emotion based. At that point, it's logic based. Like, here's everything you're going to get. You know, when you get that high end car and you see all those, you look at the sticker on the window, you know, you got the high end stereo system, you got the alloy wheels, you got the upgraded turbo package. When you see that final sticker price, it makes sense, right? Am I on track here?
100%, man. 100%. Yeah. I mean, if you just said something like there was no objection. And I think the reason for that is because like you've answered their question. Like you've told them every single thing that they're going to get. So how could they have an objection if you have the answer? Because here's the thing, like person A might want bullet number 2. Person B might want bullet number 4. You know what I mean? It's like, you're going to go through all these things. Surely some of them are going to resonate, right? And they're going to be like, oh, I definitely got to have that. So you're just kind of covering your bases there.
So, okay. So we know your offer works. All right. So this whole framework where you have the webinar, you qualify them, you get them on a call, you present the offer and you close them, and then you put them into your group coaching. This is all group coaching, correct?
100%. They get like a couple one-on-ones with their health coach, but they're only, I think, 15 minutes long now. And they're all very formatted to just guide them along. It's not like any, hey, book a one-on-one with us. No, it's
okay.
Yeah.
So let's not get too into the weeds of fulfillment, because, sure, coaching fulfillment, that's a whole nother topic. Let's talk for like 3 or 4 minutes, how you've scaled with ads, and your advice to someone who is looking to get to like 10,000 a month in their coaching, and then we'll open it up to Q&A.
For sure. I'm glad you actually asked that question, because that was probably one of the most challenging things for us, was scaling, which is what Uriel Kame helped us do. So we started off doing, I think, $5,000 a day, and that was a sweet spot for us, right? Like we were selling, I think, I don't know, maybe 35 to 40 consults a day. And then for whatever reason, anytime we would take our budget past $5,000, whether it was $5,010 or $6,000, it didn't matter. Anytime we got past that point, it was like sales would tank, right? And our CPA would just go through the roof. And it was just, it was a real struggle. So we hired a media buyer whose name is Nicholas Kuzmich. And Nick really, I mean, I don't know how he did it, but he took us from $10,000, I think, to 25. Give me 1 second, Caleb. I'm sorry, man.
Sure. Anybody want to jump on, or let's say this, why don't you start putting your questions in the chat you have for Richard, and then as we open it up to Q&A, we'll go through that. And yeah, okay. So you could get it to 5,000 a day, kind of on your guys' own. Just turn up the volume on the ads, and then you hit a plateau, right? Oh, you froze, Richard. Where'd you go?
Yeah. Again, my apologies. My house is chaotic right now. I have no idea what's happening, but dogs.
We're just glad to have you, Richard. I don't care
anyways,
if there's a war in the background. Let's keep going.
Good. As long as you don't. Yeah. There might be. There might be.
You got boys, so probably.
Oh, dude, it's all day. Anyways, so yeah, Nick did something that took us from, I think, 5 to 25K a day, but at the same time, like Nick kind of ran his course as well, and then we went back to our original guy. Like Nick allowed us to scale. He took us to scale, and the thing I say, I'm not sure how he did it. I do know how he did it. We did a different structure. Like we were doing a certain style of Facebook ads, the way we would build it. And then we switched over to a different way that was way more broad, not near on a small budget. You need to be very, very, very targeted on your audience. The more you grow, the more budget you have behind it, it's extremely broad. Like we just went back to targeting, but we were doing 50 grand a day straight to men, women, ages 45 and up. That's it.
That was your targeting.
That was our targeting.
Wow.
And we were doing pretty well. We were selling about 80 consults a day. And then something else happened. You know, just a piece of advice. You guys will have, you know, as you grow, you know, we grew our team. We have a person for just about everything. You'll have people that sabotage on purpose and people that sabotage not on purpose. And we've had a couple of both. And the most recent guy, I don't think it was on purpose. He's a great guy, seems like, but he was telling us, you know, our for example, our opt-in rate was 27% for about a year. Come to find out, it was actually like 7.5. And that's our fault for not digging harder and figuring that out until a couple of weeks ago. But you know, it's like we're spending north of $1 million a month and with terrible numbers, you know. So we figured that out, and I want to say it was about a week ago. We relaunched everything, and we're selling like 130 consults a day. CPA is about $323. I mean, we're flying high right now. We're feeling good. Yeah. So scaling, it's definitely the roughest journey, but it is also the most rewarding.
Mm. So what do you say to the new coach who's like, Richard, that's great. Beautiful story. I don't have money for ads. Like I'm in the October 2019 version of your story, right? I'm struggling just to get by. I know I have a good offer. I know I can help people, but how do I get that initial boost, maybe without ads or with a very reasonable budget, just to get people into my program so I can pay my bills and start to just get myself grounded?
Yeah. You know, I'm not saying it's not possible. Okay. I'm not. And I'll tell you ways that I believe it is possible, but, and I hope this doesn't drain anybody, but paid ads is where it's at. You know, if you can't pay to be in the game, I'm sorry, but it's likely not going to happen. When you don't have any money to put behind it, I would spend all your time on open forums, get on Reddit, get on Quora, answer questions, help people. You know, all it takes is one client to pay you a couple grand, right? And then you put that couple grand into paid ads, right? Like, don't pay yourself, pay the business. That's what we did. You know, like even when we started off this whole process and it was going pretty well, and we were doing, you know, 80 grand a month, million a month, maybe, we didn't pay ourselves. We put every cent back into the business until probably like 8 months into it is when we finally started to pay ourselves a little bit. Like, yeah, we paid our bills, but we didn't take any extra off the top. So don't do that. You know, so spend your time on the open forums, just any little thing that you can do to get one client. And then you take that money, you put it into ads.
So hustle, grind. So have a solid strategy in place, get your offer in place, have your MVM flywheel in place, my framework, right? Where you're publishing, like you said, publishing those videos, you have a way to capture them, you have a way to nurture and close them. Right. Get on the open forum, generate interest into your, just serve people kind of without asking. And then inevitably people are going to click into your profiles. They're going to opt into your lead magnets. They're going to start to get nurtured. And then if you have that solid offer on the back end, that strategy, like you guys had in place where you're going to qualify them as a customer, then you're going to give them awareness and then give them a presentation. I mean, is that a place to start to where you can generate some capital to start to invest in the in your traffic?
Yeah. And like I was saying to you before, if you can, you know, pick like a day and shoot as many short videos as you can, and you make sure that you publish them every single day on your media, on your social medias. That's what we did in the beginning. That's how we grew a following, right? One video a day, every day. And what we did was we came to about 100 videos, posted 100 videos. When we ran out, we just regurgitated and posted those same 100 videos, right? You have to be consistent. You can't miss a day. And if Facebook sees that you're doing this, and if you're even getting a little bit of interaction, they're going to reward you for it. It's harder to do now than it was when we did it, but it's still doable. And if you're doing that in addition to open forums, You can grow the following. You can get people into your world. And yeah, if I were going to start over, that's 100 with no money. That's absolutely what I would do.
So let's put a pin in that kind of that build up stage. Maybe we can go in depth on that on another call. But let's open it up to some Q&A, and sure. Let's see who we got in the chat here. Okay, so per the chat, we've made people laugh and cry, and looks like Chuck was crying. I'm not surprised at that.
Sorry, Chuck.
Okay, let's bring Jeff up to the front. Jeff, if you want to ask your question, turn on your camera, Jeff, and come talk to Richard.
What's up, Richard?
What's up, man?
Appreciate all this. This is great. Yeah, I'm just curious. You mentioned $5,000 budget was sort of like a sweet spot for you, and I'm all for paid ads. But where's the bottom limit that people should be sort of investing over time, right? I get that, like, maybe the first, like I just ran an ad to an event just as a test. I spent like $300. Mm-hmm. I got some engagement, but no conversion. And so of course that's a little bit frustrating. It happens to everybody's common story, but it's $300, right? Do I need to? Is it like that's not good enough? That's not going to turn the wheel? That's sort of where I'm wondering.
Yeah. So what I would do is, like, my assumption is that you set up that campaign, you set it at a $300 lifetime budget, right?
For the campaign, it was like a week and a half. Yeah.
Okay. So what I would recommend, like, to find that sweet spot is, like, don't do lifetime budgets, do daily budgets, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then you can kind of go up and down from there to see what that sweet spot's going to be for you. One of my friends, he has an art business, and we're doing the same thing for him right now. We found that I think we're doing 150 a day, which I get is not doable for everybody. I get that. That's fine. But what that 150 did, we didn't sell a ton of his programs, but we got enough data that we now know, let's tweak some things and let's relaunch. You know what I mean? And I think we ran it for 2 weeks. So it's going to be different for everybody. It really depends on finding the best audience for you, because you can throw $150 a day to the wrong audience and not get a damn thing, or you can throw 150 to the perfect audience and it goes crazy. So it just depends on so many different factors. And believe it or not, that's probably the most common question I get is, how do you find out what budget is best? I wish I had a better answer, but it solely relies on testing.
Cool. Appreciate that.
Of course.
Thanks, Jeff. Patricia, why don't you come up front and ask your question to Richard?
Okay, and apologize for the baseball cap. The 6:30 in the morning stuff.
Oh, don't worry about it. I usually wear one every day too. So
we're a hat-friendly mastermind.
Yeah, I love that you guys all show up in your t-shirts and stuff. I feel so much better about not being completely primped up at dark 30.
I haven't worn a tie in over a year, so don't worry.
The joy of being an entrepreneur. Well, I've had several businesses, and I've dabbled in the Facebook ad thing, right? And I've gone through and I've taken the courses, and of course it seems to change as soon as I've taken a course. The whole criteria changes, right? Like, now they've changed the metrics. And so my common experience is I boost or do a paid ad or run a thing, whatever, with the daily budget. And I go through all the metrics and pick my criteria, who I want to see it, blah, blah, blah. And I get back, really great numbers. But then I start looking through the people that like it, and it's some weird foreigner in Chile or Pakistan. I'm like, that's not my target market at all. I'm trying to sell a $1.6 million golf course home in Southern California. Like, how on earth? I mean, that's a pretty specific buyer I went after, right? Yeah. And it went, so I'm just curious as to what the logic was. I didn't spend a lot of money on it because I've completely lost faith in the Facebook ads.
Yeah.
And how does that happen?
Yeah. So a couple things. In the very beginning, when you're setting up a campaign in the ad set level, when you're picking out your targeting, it'll, like, for us, we choose the United States. We can't ship outside of the United States right now. Pain in the butt, but whatever. And then right above that, when you select the United States, it'll say people in or recently visited United States. Definitely want to change that to people who live in the United States. That's number one. Number two, when you're picking your placements, if you have audience network enabled, you're going to get crap clicks from that all day long and it will spend your budget. That's something to use later on in retargeting ads, but on the front end, never use audience network because you're going to get a lot of stuff like that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, there's just so much to it. And so I'm really glad I've got Caleb in my team now.
Yeah, don't give up on Facebook. I know Facebook, I mean, I don't use it personally, but for business, I mean, it's the only marketing platform we use right now. And you know, it'll work. It's just, you just have to fine tune it. That's all.
Now, and also for Instagram, I'm sorry, I got something in my eye. For Instagram, I've recently taken an Instagram marketing course and I'm about halfway through it, and I'm learning in depth about the hashtags. And is this correct that you find the people that would be your target market and you put together a list of what hashtags they're interested in? And have you had any success with Instagram? Because I'm finding from a real estate perspective, putting the link to the property in the bio section creates an extra step that I think slows the traffic to look at the property.
Yeah. So we didn't focus on Instagram until probably 3 or 4 months ago. But yeah, by doing basically what you just said, we grew, I don't know, it was 10,000 maybe a couple weeks ago. But it was, you know, we just used hashtags, and there's a site that you can use to find relative hashtags, and, you know, you can search your keyword, and then it'll populate, I don't know, whatever, maybe 20 of the most popular hashtags relating to your keyword in seconds, right? And then you just pick the ones that make sense to you, plug them in, and then that'll work.
Okay, and what site is
I mean,
that?
we grew to 15,000 in a few weeks. I think it's called All Hashtags. Let me see.
That's cool.
Yeah, All Hashtag.
Okay.
And then, yeah, so like, and then you can click top, random, or live. And then I'll just search like health, right, for us. And then it'll generate, it looks like there's 30 hashtags here that you can pick from.
Beautiful.
And they're all the top today, you know, and it works really well.
Okay, cool. If nobody else has a question, I mean, I used to have a holistic practice myself, and I went through the Apex Energetics, you know, functional, and honestly, it's a great program, worked really well, and I got some amazing clients from it. If we hadn't had the insurance change in 2014, my practice would still be going. I actually had 3 employees and everything when that thing hit. Right. And I just went, you know what, I'm not working for a 7-Eleven wage, you know, because covered California is a joke. But what came to me, and I don't know if anybody else would like to hear this little aha I had while you were talking, the free offer to get people to identify their own pain point and come to you, which is you know, was how I kind of understand what you did initially. Was for me, you know, because I'm promoting a real estate investment course targeted at women, is sending out a form that they fill out on their own that's about the health of their wealth. Oh yeah. You know, what's the health of, so they identify their own pain point, and then, you know, bring up the point that, you know, with inflation and everything, you know, what's your long-term perspective with your wealth. So that was just my aha. I'm just sharing with everybody because I got really excited about that, because
that's great. Thank you.
It's awesome. Okay. All right. I'll stop hogging the oxygen.
No, you're fine.
I love it. Thank you.
Scott had a question about retargeting. Scott, you want to come on?
Well, yeah. So, and Caleb, you might be able to assist me on what's behind it, but obviously, so Caleb, you have suggested retargeting. We hired a guy who does Facebook ads, and he kind of poo-pooed it. So when you said retargeting, it perked my ears up. Maybe just share advice on retargeting, when to bring it in, how to use it effectively.
Yeah. So the whole iOS 14 thing really threw everything off track for a little bit there. But it seems to be stabilizing a bit. So we really rely very, very heavily on retargeting, like extremely heavily on retargeting, because that's where it's at, right? Like we all know the fortune's in the follow-up. So we call it the stalker style, right? Like we literally stalk these people until they either buy or tell us like, hey, leave me alone. So we run oh gosh, I mean, we have probably 1,000 ads running at any given time, but we run, for example, like the front camp, top of funnel, right? Cold audience. And then we have middle of funnel and bottom of funnel. And let's just say, for example, top of funnel has 50 videos. Middle and bottom will each have 50 videos respectively as well. So anybody in layer one, if they see 15 or more seconds of that video, they're getting moved into layer two. And they have another 50 videos to go through before, they ever leave our world. And again, like I was saying, like the Frank Kern thing is like, be helpful. Like we're constantly staying in front of them with videos that have helpful tips. So like I probably have told you all, but I told Caleb, I think one of our most successful videos was a 2-minute video on apple cider vinegar, right? And the benefits it has for the gut. And like that video goes crazy, right? Because it's like something that they can watch and then most people will have. And if they don't, they can go get it in a half an hour, you know what I mean? And bring it home, use it, and instantly notice a result. So it's just, staying in front of them as long as you can until they buy. And then, you know what I mean? It's just like, never, ever give up unless they straight up tell you no. And at that point, don't worry, because we're just going to hit you again with top of funnel later on down the road.
Richard, we are out of time. Thank you, Scott. This has been great. I feel like I've been drinking from a fire hose. I was trying to take notes on a sticky note, which is not very effective in general. But we would love to have you on in the future to go deeper, a little more granular on things like ad buying, this whole 10 by 10 campaign. So we'd love to have you in the future if you would have us. And maybe we can do a sit down interview at Funnel Hacking Live.
Absolutely.
At my posh resort hotel room, which I've secured. But let's we got time for one more comment. Who has a super insightful takeaway they'd like to share with Richard? And you will get the last word. Chuck, I love your takeaways. Come on forward. What is your takeaway from today's call?
Oh, you're too kind. And I am drying up my tears. So great story. Thank you for having it. There's a couple things. One, you're breaking false beliefs. You're bringing emotion in. We don't necessarily need to make them cry, but that does help. The other thing, and I remember this from early on in these FunnelFlow calls, serve the people like you're serving these individuals that you want to have as your clients, patients, customers, whatever it is, but you're always giving, and because you have so much to give. So breaking false belief, getting those emotions out, and always serving.
Absolutely.
That's great. Well, thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Richard. If you watch this interview, if you want to go deeper, Richard and I are working on some sort of group coaching program where you can work one-on-one with Richard and myself just to get deeper clarity and actually lay out your offer structure, modeling what's worked for Richard. So Richard and I are in the talks of that. We don't know what it's going to look like exactly, but that is on the horizon. And Richard, we appreciate your time, and go beat those boys up a little bit and show them who's boss. Okay.
For sure. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it a lot.